purpose of this event today is to share evidence and inspire conversations that will influence how we help kids and raise our kids today. So this is my foundation. It's called Save the Kids. This is something I started just a year ago. And I'm not a very serious person, so let's get going. Before we start, and if you have your phones out, I see some of you do, that's totally fine. You can take some photos. A quick word from my attorney. This is Bernie on the issue of phones.
Good for you. The phone is not good for you. Put your phone away.
Some kid just sent that to me. I get messages all day long. Some kid took his mom's phone, filmed that, and then sent it to me. So let's put those phones away. Do you remember when you were 13? Does anyone remember when they were 13 years old? And your mom's only stress was, could you not bring the Cabbage Patch doll to the table? That was it. No wonder she was so chill. And now for your 13-year-old, I have one. It's please don't drink, smoke weed, take pills, drool, chug cough syrup, eat Tide Pods, or do any stupid YouTube challenges today. Could you please not do that today? Welcome to parenting in 2019. The game has totally changed. And that's why we're here. So this is me. My name's Collin, and I put this together this morning because my wife always says, you never introduce yourself like who you really are. So here's a little bit too much information about me. I have 4 kids, aka crypods is what I call them. I'm a Leo, but I identify as Pisces. My favorite color is ham. I get really nervous holding venomous snakes, and I will never let guacamole go to waste. This was at DFW Airport.
Are they gonna eat that guac? What? Are they gonna eat that guac? Oh.
This is how I got Giardia.
As a white person, I can never turn down free guac.
I have that on my phone. I forgot why I had that, but that's me, so thank you. This movement I started, which is now a foundation, which is called Save the Kids, I started a year ago. After I found a friend of ours had a family, had a daughter, who ended her life at 21. And her mom told me it was all because of the pressure from social media and her smartphone. And she told me this huge story, which I went and told the people following me for jokes and humor on my Instagram account. And I started this movement called Save the Kids after that, which has then gone crazy. Speaking all over the place. I spoke last night till 11 o'clock at night in the middle of a forest to a bunch of young single adults in the middle of Spanish Fork. This year alone, I've spoke over 200 times. And we're booked out till October 2020 now, sharing this message all over the country about what's going on with our kids. Spoke at the Spectrum just barely, and every day I go talk to kids. And they tell me everything. They tell me what they're going through because they know I'll listen and I'll share it, and I have given them a voice. Messages like this every week. Call, my name's Kara. You came and spoke at Logan today. I need to tell you how much you helped me. Today I was planning on ending my life. When my family went to your speech, my mom dragged me into the car to make me come. When I heard everything you talked about, I realized so much. Specifically, the social media has had a huge negative impact on my life. And I decided to get rid of it for good. This is the deal, is the anxiety, depression, suicidality, has been skyrocketing in the last few years, specifically since 2010, which is ironically enough, when smartphones and social media became the new thing. In 2010 also, that's when Bachelor in Paradise came out, so maybe it's that. The science is still out. Time magazine recently found the saddest looking teenager they could, put her on the cover. They're like, imagine you're drinking Diet Mountain Dew. Perfect, okay. But they said this, they said, America, this is the average teen, anxious and depressed. And they shared stats that were really, really scary. 25% of our girls in the UK at 14 are now self-harming, saying pressure to be perfect from social media. I would guess that we're pretty close to that here in the States. 1 in 4 Utah teens say they feel sad enough to consider suicide. That was last October. This came out just last week or two. The suicide rate of our girls, now 10 to 14, is now rising past boys. These kids are in crisis. I just got this message. I get hundreds every day from kids. I got this message this morning. Collin, I need help. Oh shoot, what's up? So my friend texted me like an hour ago, said she cut herself. And she asked me not to tell anyone or her parents, and I don't know what to do. I wrote her back and said, how old is she? 13. Freaking heck, because I don't like swearing. But our kids are in a big, big crisis, and we have got to fix it. Now, I call it the perfect storm, because if you think about kids today in the world, there is so much going on that is causing so much anxiety and so much pressure. This is just a handful of the things that I'm seeing as I go talk to kids. You throw on school pressure, pressure to excel, unlimited access pornography, gaming addiction, cyberbullying, lawnmower parenting, 24/7. This is the perfect storm. And it's really easy for us to freak out. I wake up in a panic. Any parent wake up in a panic every day? Open up, wake up, go get your phone, get on Twitter, and by 2 minutes, you're like, the world's over. What's the point of doing anything? Our president might be a Russian spy. I read that on Twitter. And I'm trying to figure out in the last 10 years, since everything's going like this, what's happened? What has changed in the last 10 years? What's the biggest thing that's happened? This is pretty much most of it. And I talk to these kids all day about the effects of the phone and social media and everything on them and on their mental health and what it's doing to them. And we have created a society that really fosters anxiety in young people and not resilience. So no wonder we're seeing kids struggle with anxiety. And if we as parents are afraid, our kids are going to be afraid too. And it's easy to be afraid. And it reminds me, do you remember the 1980s drug PSA, the one that scared us all to death? Where the dad with the mustache walks into his boy's bedroom and he's got weed in a box. And he's like, what is this? Who remembers this PSA? And he goes, how did you learn how to do this? And what did he say? You, Dad. I learned it by watching you, right? And then the slow pan into the face. Parents who do drugs have children who do drugs. I think they need to do another one. How did you learn how to be anxious about everything? And the boy looks at his dad and he says, you, Dad, I learned it by watching you, right? And then the slow pan into the dad's face. Parents who can't get their crap together have kids who can't keep it together, right? We cannot raise resilient kids if we're not being resilient ourselves. And my goal with my 4 Cry Pods is I don't want them to just be semi-independent, less anxious kids with mediocre coping skills. And honestly, that's how it was. You remember when you had your first kid? Who has more than one kid? Remember your first kid, you're like, my goal is to get on Ellen as a child prodigy, go to Harvard at 13, but then by your 4th kid, you're like, as long as they don't like get in jail by 12, we'll be fine, right? Your bar lowers. And this is not my goal. My goal and your goal should not be, let's just make sure our kids are okay, right? Because even in today, when I meet kids who can have a decent conversation with me after an assembly, they can come up to me and look at me in their eyes and they're not freaking out or pull their phone out 2 seconds later. I'm like, you are going to crush it. You're going to write your own ticket in this society if you can keep this up. Go give your mom a hug, your dad, for helping you get there. My goal is this. I want to turn my kids into fire breathers. Little dragons that aren't afraid of anything, who have values, who know who they are, who are confident who they are, and they're not going to budge in a world that wants them to budge in everything. I want them to be independent kids. So here's what I think independence means. Independence relies on a strong foundation of trust and respect. Kids who learn self-controlled responsibility early in life are much better equipped to face challenge of adulthood, have skills to innovate and think creatively. Truly independent kids are capable of coping with adversity, setbacks, and boredom. All unavoidable aspects of life. They feel in control when everything's in chaos. Talk about boredom. One of the biggest issues, our kids have never been bored. They don't have to be bored. They don't know what that means. They don't know what awkward means, right? My oldest is 13, 7th grade, just graduated, passed, whatever. And every Friday for the school year, we live on 1100 North in Pleasant Grove. It's a very steep hill. I make her walk home every Friday for one reason, not for exercise. I need her to feel awkward. I need her to feel weird. Remember when you walked home and your mom forgot to pick you up and you're like, oh my gosh, people are looking at me. I'm an idiot. I look like a loser. Now they just throw on their AirPods, pull out their phone, and they never feel any weirdness, right? I want her to feel everything. I don't know how to say her name, but it's Esther Wojcicki, something like that. Does anyone know who this is? Esther Wojcicki. Sorry, are we filming this? Can we edit that later? Esther has 2 kids, Susan and Ann. Susan is the CEO of YouTube, and Ann started 23andMe, that thing we spit in cups and then we send it to some place that tells us who we are, but really they're just housing it, right, in the NSA buildings so they can come out and throw chemicals at us later. We'll talk about that later. And she wrote an article that I loved in Time about how she raised these kids to be so successful. And here's the basis. She said, I spoke to my kids as if they were adults from day one. Now, I was wondering, like, even when the baby was born, was she like, hey, stop crying? Like, maybe not from day one. I never put them in danger, but I also never stood in the way of them experiencing life or taking calculated risks. I respected their individuality from the beginning. What I wanted more than anything was to make them first into independent kids and then into empowered, independent adults. I figured if they could think on their own, make sound decisions, they could face any challenges that come their way. So here's mine. This is my family. Here's my little unit. Avery and 3 others. I'm still learning their names. And they all have their own personality. Before I had kids, I thought their personality was developed based on their surroundings. I'm convinced that they came to earth with their own personality. And as much as I try and make Avery be an athlete, she dribbles a basketball like a giraffe, baby giraffe born on ice skates. She can't do it. I put her in volleyball camps. I tried. She's not going to. But you know what she loves? She loves to sing and dance. So that's what we put her in. And that's what we push her to do, right? Quincy, that's her name. She's the one who can dribble basketball. She hates to sing. I put her in camps. I put her in trauma. She hated it. And I knew, I'm like, if I could get her in trauma, what happened? And I post all of her events and her success on Facebook, then all my friends think I'm amazing. And they're like, you're the parenting god. And a lot of us are parenting based on that, right? I want to teach our kids the difference between dignity and respect. Because in today, when everyone has an opinion, and that opinion never goes away, and if you post your opinion, it's there forever. And people are very easy at getting mad at other people. We don't even know who they are, sharing comments on Facebook. And I'm going to chime in here and reply to this guy. And who is this guy? I'm your sister's ex-boyfriend's friend's roommate, right? Let me tell you what I think. We've opened the world to a lot of issues here with cyberbullying. And one of my favorite things ever said about this from Brene Brown.
Don't walk through the world looking for evidence that you don't belong, because you will always find it.
Yes.
Don't walk through the world looking for evidence that you're not enough, because you'll always find it. Our worth and our belonging are not negotiated with other people. We carry those inside of our hearts. And so for me, I know who I am. I'm clear about that. And I'm not going to negotiate that with you. I will negotiate a contract with you. I will negotiate maybe even a topic with you, but I'm not going to negotiate who I am with you. Because then, and this is I think the heart of the book, then I may fit in for you, but I no longer belong to myself.
That's what I want. That's what I want my kids to be, is exactly what she said there. And it's hard, because if we're not teaching these kids to be fire breathers at a young age, and we let the internet, we let the world, we let Facebook, Snapchat, we let them teach our kids this stuff, it's gonna be a disaster. So why are you here today? Because of this quote from Frederick Douglass, it is easier to build strong children than repair broken men. And women break too sometimes, but not really, right?